can all join palms and repeat after me. I take refuge in the Buddha.
I take refuge in the Buddha.
I take refuge in the Dharma.
I take refuge in the Dharma.
I take refuge in the Sangha.
I take refuge in the Sangha.
Keeping the palms joined. Put palms down. So good morning, all. How's everybody doing today? Could be worse, right? Oh wait, hang on. I had a test. I wanted to see if we passed. No. See, there was trash right when you walk in. I saw it this morning and I started to pick it up and I was like, no, I'm going to leave it here because there's about 80 people who are going to show up here in 30 minutes. I'm going to see if anybody picks it up. I know you all feel really uncomfortable right now. So I'm Jeff and it's my job to make you all feel really uncomfortable, but to be able to find humor in it as well. Not to pass guilt, not to pass judgment, not to critique, but to actually be real to waking up. And this is actually somebody walking in right now is probably picking it up, so it's fine. I've found no greater way to learn this practice than to actually be real with what's happening. And often, if you're new to meditation or you're new to Buddhism, or even if you've been at this for 20 years, there's this idea that there's something I'm supposed to learn about something or some way or someone else. And it's not the truth, at least how I see Buddhism. Buddhism is simply learning about you. Your greed, your anger, your ignorance, your awareness, your lack thereof, like that's it. Because that is what you take into every interaction. It's what you take into every relationship, every job, every traffic jam, every temple. You know, everywhere you go, you bring you with you. And the question is, what are you bringing with you? Are you bringing a mindset of compassion, generosity, and wisdom? Or are you bringing a mindset of greed, anger, and ignorance? And that's it. You know, like that's the question we ask ourselves every day. You know? Oh, I take that back. That's the question I ask myself every day. And I like to add humor to it as well. Generosity, compassion, wisdom, and humor. Because without the humor, you know, I know from growing up as kind of a mean, angry, depressed kid that if I did something what I thought or someone else thought was wrong, I then felt really bad, and then I was more angry at myself, and then I hated myself more, and then I critiqued myself more, and then it became just this really vicious cycle with no end in sight. Well, there was an end, but it wasn't a good end, right? And so I started to recognize, like, okay, I need to figure out a way to practice with the levels of greed, anger, ignorance, but also be able to laugh at it. And so for me, I find lots of things funny. It's helped me get through the sanity of this crazy life we're all living. And like I said, with the madness that goes on, if we don't see some humor in it, even if that humor is a little bit twisted or whatever you call it, then there's just so much darkness to things. And the mind can get really kind of negative and painful and filled with hate. And that's no good anywhere. So begin to recognize these things when we, and if you've been around Buddhist practice, all I'm doing is reciting the heart of the Buddhist teachings, which is why we struggle, why we suffer. That's it. I mean, it was the second thing he said, He said we suffer because of greed, anger, ignorance. And I think in practice, to me, that's why I talk about those things so much, because I find we tend to overlook them and get lost in, Buddhist fantasy land, the illusion of being Buddhist, or the illusion of being spiritual, or the illusion of going to temples or meditation places. There's no illusion. Buddhist practice is your everyday life. That's it. And the meditation component, which we'll do in a minute, because especially if you're here for the first time, you probably thought you were coming to meditation, not listening to a 10-minute Dharma talk about why we didn't pick up trash. The meditation is important, but if we don't cut through the things I'm talking about, then, as I always say, an angry person who meditates is just an angry meditator. That won't help you out much. So we'll start with a meditation practice. A couple things to tell you before we begin. Nothing's going to happen to you. All right, you're not going to float away. You won't have any mystical, magical experiences. The mind that races all day long is not going to shut off. Don't judge your practice, meaning don't ask yourself, is this working? Is this not working? Am I doing it right? Am I doing it wrong? We're just going to sit. We're going to breathe. You'll hear sounds. You'll hear the sound of somebody getting up and picking up the trash outside. You'll hear sounds of somebody coughing. See, Travis gets my humor. I think he's the only one. You'll hear sounds. This is life. Life is filled with chaos, right? The practice of meditation is learning to get quiet and still with all of the chaos, all right? Posture, you just want to be comfortable. Starts with relaxing the shoulders, relaxing the hands. Stomach is pushed forward slightly, just to keep the back straight. Closing the eyes if comfortable, or slightly open. Mouth is open or closed. We'll start with taking 3 deep breaths. I'll guide us as we begin. We'll settle into a little bit of silence. And again, starting with the eyes closed if comfortable, or slightly open. Mouth open or closed. Start with taking 3 deep breaths, slowly. And eventually, settle into a natural rhythm of the breath. Noticing the mind as it wanders, jumping from thought to thought. Start with gently guiding the attention, focus, to the stomach or chest. Breathing in, feel them rise. Breathing out, they fall. Simply continue this practice, observing sensation of breath. Expecting nothing but to sit and breathe. As the mind wanders, lost in thought, recognize it. Release that thought. Return attention, focus to the breath. Where's your mind? Return attention, focus to the breath. Learning to be comfortable in stillness, in quiet, wanting nothing but to sit and breathe. And with the body still, rested, and the speech quiet, aware of all sounds, and the mind learning to settle, know what it's like to just sit and breathe. Knowing with each breath, there's nothing else to do. Nowhere else to go. No one else to be. Everything beautiful, just as it is. Sitting, breathing. And once again, taking 3 deep breaths, slowly. As you slowly open the eyes, slowly begin to move. And most important, with the practice of meditation, is to recognize how you feel now, immediately after. Compare this to how you typically feel throughout your day. Recognize the difference, if there is one. Ask yourselves how you prefer to feel every day for the rest of your life. And realize however you feel now, it's quiet, calm, still, or a busy mind, racing mind, whatever you're sitting with at this moment, has nothing to do with anything I said. It's nothing to do with how you sit, hold the hands or cross the legs. It's nothing to do with the sounds around us or anything else for that matter. It's everything to do with your own mind and your own mind's reaction to an external condition. This is what the Buddha called pratitya samutpata, dependent origination. This is the basis of the Buddha's awakening. The word Buddha simply means awakened. He was a human being, no different than anyone in this room, who began to understand why he suffered, why he got angry, sad, depressed, stressed, anxious. He began to understand the causal relationship of all phenomena. What that means, very simply, for every one of us in this room, regardless of where you come from or what you believe in, or where you think you're going, your whole life is filled with things that happen. You react. More stuff happens, more reactions. That's it. That's what we get. Practice of meditation is learning what it's like to respond to something quietly, peacefully, still. Because for most of us, the way we respond to the last 20 minutes is quite different from how you respond to everything else that's happening throughout your days. So all we're working on is closing the gap where the way you feel now is closer to how you feel always. Just as driven, motivated, productive, successful, whatever that means to you in your respective lives. But with a mind that's steady, clear, focused, distracted by nothing, disturbed by no one. This practice is not easy. It's not necessarily fun. Meditation is not an escape as often people think it is. It's not closing your eyes and pretending you're sailing down the river and looking at all the birds and trees and flowers and thinking life is grand. Life is filled with chaos. This practice is learning to get quiet and still within all of the chaos. So as we move through it, we can actually bring something positive to it. Meditation is free. Buddhist practice is free. Sitting, breathing, learning to be kind to yourself and every other person you encounter. Every moment of your life. That's it. It's simply becoming aware, as I said earlier, of what we think and what we say and what we do. To me, that was the most important thing the Buddha taught. Be aware of your thoughts, be aware of your words, be aware of your actions. This is karma. Karma is not what you get, it's what you give. Karma is generated three ways, as the Buddha taught: what we think, what we say, and what we do. So the reason I say the same thing every single time for the last 10 years is that's the same thing the Buddha said to me in my own translation of it for 45 years. He taught that. Be aware of your karma. What you think, what you say, and what you do determines your reality and the life around you. And to me, that's just where you start. But that's a challenge because most of us don't grow up wanting to explore the nature of why we do what we do. We often get stuck trying to explore the nature of why everybody else does what they do. Why do they do this? Why do they do that? Why don't they stop this? Why don't they stop that? They shouldn't do this. They shouldn't do that. I'm sure none of us have ever done anything wrong in this room. So it's nice to be seated with such an enlightened group of people every Saturday morning. Keeps it fun. But, yeah. I'd rather just stop there and open up to questions. I always prefer to address what's on your mind. Meditation, Buddhist practice, anything you want to ask, and I can respond.
I have a question. It might be a little difficult for me to articulate, but I'll try. I'm
Yes.
thinking about like when you say, thinking about how you feel now versus how you felt before or whatever. And it got me thinking about situations or circumstances in my life that bring me closer to that space versus situations that don't remove me or separate me from that more, whatever, something happens at work.
Mm-hmm.
Would the Buddhist teachings say, well, you're in control, or like that there are situational things that sometimes you need to change in order that are pulling you away from your practice? Or would the teachings say that no, it doesn't matter the situation because it's you who's in control of your reactions?
Yeah, great question. And with stuff like this, and that same question has been asked, like you said, it's tough to articulate. That same question has been asked, like I've heard it asked 1,000 different ways, but it's always addressing the same thing, which is how much of a unhealthy, toxic environment, situation, whatever you want to call that, do we want to stay in and put all of the burden on us to just respond to it calmly and peacefully? And how much of it is us recognizing that if we are in a situation that is unhealthy, toxic, whatever it might be, realizing we're just human. We're not enlightened folks. We are unenlightened folks. No offense to the enlightened ones in the room, right? Which means we get angry, we get greedy, we get ignorant. Our pride takes over, our ego takes over. It's nice to come together and sit and talk and read about all these beautiful little things that we're trying to like work on. And then there's the reality of who we are. And the reality is if we're in an unhealthy situation, we're not always going to be the greatest practitioners. So there is a time, I think, what I've learned from this practice, and this time is different for everybody and every situation is unique, that it helps to, yes, remove ourselves from a situation. You know, often this question comes up, not suggesting that you are asking it this way, but often this question comes up with regards to unhealthy relationships, which some of us in this room might have been in at some point in our lives or are currently in. And the question is, well, how long do I stay in it and allow the person to be, you know, physically, mentally, emotionally abusive, and how much of me is just supposed to be like this nice little Buddhist and allow them to, you know, be that way. I don't get anything from the Buddhist teachings that says you must stay in those situations. In fact, removing yourself from these situations or environments, to me, is a tremendous, if necessary, is a tremendous act of wisdom and compassion, potentially. Because when we remove ourselves from a healthy environment, the wisdom is recognizing that we have to take care of ourselves. The compassion is to recognize that this environment, this person is suffering, and if I remove myself from it, I'm being kind enough to stop them from doing this to me.
Would you say the same thing if it were like with regard to a job?
Everything.
Everything.
Yeah, everything. I mean, it's a really hard, there's no like pinpoint response or answer, but everything. Yes, on one hand, it would be nice if you're in a job that you hate to just say, I'm going to be this perfect little Buddhist and ignore everything that's unhealthy and toxic and disgusting at this work environment. And that'll last you for about 3 days. And then on day 4, you're like going to go do your meditation, Buddhist stuff, or whatever it might be. And you're like, okay, I can get through it. And then you'll get through another day and a half, and you're like, screw it, I can't do this anymore. Right? Like, we can tell ourselves as much as we want, we're going to be okay with it. But if it's deeply unhealthy for us, there are plenty of other jobs out there that you might hate not nearly as bad. Right? I mean, that's the reality of it. You know, and again, the last thing, whether it's work or whatever it might be, and this is for everybody, of course, regardless of how much we want to practice with an unhealthy environment or unhealthy situation, if it is completely destroying us, it's not doing you any good. You know, it's really not. If there are things going on, whether it's at work or in the world that you don't like, the practice is to work to bring beautiful change into our communities. But if you're so angry and filled with hate all the time, you're not going to bring anything positive to that environment. You know, if being in a workplace is so incredibly toxic for you, you're useless. Because then you're just trying to salvage some sort of sanity throughout your day. So, yeah, hopefully that helps. Yeah. Yeah, Norma.
Is it something similar to what right occupation?
Right, what? Oh, livelihood?
Yeah, livelihood.
Potentially, yes, except, you know, when the Buddha talked about right livelihood, which is the Eightfold Path, right? Four Noble Truths, life is suffering. 1, cause of suffering is for everybody. Cause of suffering is 2. 3rd is the ending of suffering, nirvana, liberation. 4th is the path, the Eightfold Path. And the Eightfold Path is to have the correct views, thoughts, speech, action, livelihood, effort, mindfulness, concentration. That is the heart of Buddhist teachings. It's all available on Google for free. So if you're brand new, just Google Four Noble Truths, Eightfold Path. But what you're asking about is right livelihood. Not necessarily, because you could be performing or living in an environment that you might say is right livelihood, but be miserable. So you might define a form of livelihood, job, work, or whatever it might be that you feel is a beautiful thing for the world. But it still could be a toxic environment, an unhealthy place, right? Spiritual centers, temples are really wonderful places. You know how many I've been into that are extremely toxic and unhealthy? I've seen a lot of stuff, man. So we can't fool ourselves in thinking that just because a temple. I mean, I spent probably 13 years, the last 13 years of my life working on creating a healthy environment, because the objective of a Buddhist temple is to bring beauty into the lives of people who come into it, which then can be transferred out into the world. But if we are filled with people coming into it that have a couple issues going on, that means we're filled with people that are coming in with a lot of stuff. And if you're not careful, those spiritual environments, those meditation centers, those temples, those studios, whatever you want to call it, can quickly become, those sanghas, mini sanghas, can quickly become extremely unhealthy and toxic and divisive. And the Buddha taught that. I mean, that's why he stressed so hard within the Buddhist Sangha, right? You'd like to think that the Buddha living with the monks and nuns was an incredible act of right livelihood, right? But you know why the precepts were put in place? To keep it safe. Because he knew that it could become toxic and unhealthy and divisive. So it's not so cut and dry. Does that help? Yeah. Yes, in the back, sorry.
No, I was just noticing that as I meditate, after I'm done meditating, I sort of carry that mindfulness with me, and it allows me to really be understanding my own thoughts and who I am. And I just find it really helpful.
Yes. Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, it's wonderful. That's, if you didn't hear in the front of it, the idea of after meditation, that you find yourself carrying that feeling afterwards. And that's great. Often I ask people, notice how you feel now, and then ask yourself, how long is that going to last? Maybe it's 5 minutes, maybe it's 5 hours, maybe it's 5 seconds, maybe it's gone the second you walk out the door. But the idea is that feeling, and I always say we don't meditate to be good at meditation. If we meditate and we're all calm and quiet for 20, 40 minutes or an hour or 3 seconds, whatever it might be, and then you walk outside and you're instantly pissed off by everything that's going on, then this practice, you need to keep practicing. Yeah, but thank you for sharing that. It's good to reflect on that.
Yeah.
Other thoughts, questions? Yes, in the back there.
Okay, you just talked about how you should believe. Well, her question was about the first question was about how you need to take yourself out of the environment, like you said, environments that are negative or things that are not good for you or toxic. But how do you know if it's just you thinking that it's not a good place to be in because you're scared that it's too good of a place for you, and if you have little things that are like, oh, like it's bad for me because this, but I'm scared because it's gonna get you to a better place.
Yeah, you think too much. You were like, I was with you like halfway, and then I was like, oh, she's driving herself crazy. Do you like to think a lot?
I think a lot. I think that I get scared of a lot of things.
Yeah.
I'll pick at things that are like, oh, I'm gonna run away. I'm gonna run away because I think it's bad, but it might be good for me. So do you have any like advice?
Oh man. Yes, I'm just trying to figure out which one to say. So. Do you typically look at yourself as a good, kind person who deserves a good, healthy life?
Normally.
Is that an honest answer?
Yeah.
Then why do you think you don't deserve something that's good? What I'm hearing is, let me finish this for a minute. What you just asked has, well, I don't want to say nothing to do with the job because it has, but what you just asked has so much to do, that has to do with so much more about you and your perception of yourself versus the job or the relationship or the family or the car or the house or the clothes or whatever it might be. What you asked, what I'm hearing, has a lot to do with your perception of your sense of self and whether you feel you're worth anything.
Well, so I guess I really like to if I feel like someone is suffering or if a job can be improved, I can improve it, I guess, so I'll stay in it, try to, make it better.
Sure.
And if it's hurting me, I don't know if I should stay in it or let go of it.
Well, if something is hurting you, and as I alluded to earlier, you recognize that you are human, which means you're going to have emotions and you're going to get hurt, then there's possibly something out there that you can do and make change and bring benefit and value to without hurting. Whatever thing you have right now, it's not the only good thing in the world. And but I still am suggesting you ask yourself very truly, deeply, and honestly, like if you moved into 10 different positions or roles or jobs or companies or careers, would you be doing the same thing in all 10? Meaning, would you be questioning whether or not it's good enough or okay enough, or whether you're good enough or okay enough? It's great to want to help the world. We're all here because we want to help ourselves, which in turn helps the world. But if we don't take care of ourselves first, you're not going to survive. Yeah.
I struggle with sleepiness a lot when I meditate. People tell me maybe you need to sleep more, but so sometimes I just sort of give into it. But
Sure.
other times, like I sort of start, I'm kind of trying to struggle with it or battle with it. So I
Yes.
wonder if you have any thoughts about that.
I have a couple thoughts. One is the same thing that everybody else told you, so I won't share that one, that you need to sleep more. The second thing is more practically and realistically, the best way to keep from falling asleep when you do meditation, keep your eyes open.
Okay.
Now I get it, if you're sleepy, the eyes open are quickly going to close, right? But for me, and especially as a Zen practitioner, when I meditate, my eyes are not closed. Do we live our lives with our eyes open or our eyes closed, ideally? Open. Often when we meditate, and I know that I don't share it that way when I say, close your eyes or open if comfortable, and I almost guide in this setting more so to have people close their eyes, because I do find for many people, it tends to have a calming relaxation effect, which honestly, I'm not foolish enough to not recognize that that's why most people are here, right? Most people are here to deal with stress and anxiety and calm the nerves and relax and calm down and all that kind of stuff. And when you close your eyes and take breaths, that tends to help. But for me, I'm not trying to relax. I'm not using meditation to calm down. I'm not using meditation to feel better. I'm using meditation to wake up to the true nature of reality. And part of that, a big part of that includes moving through the world with my eyes open and recognizing my own ego, my own causes of suffering. And I do that with my eyes open. So when I sit, and again, this is a very traditional Zen practice, and you can try it right now. You can all try this. Close your eyes. And then I want you to open them slightly, just to where you start to see off the edge of the nose. Not at your nose, you'll get dizzy, but off the edge of your nose to where if you're in the black chairs, you'll probably be staring about 2 feet down on the chair in front of you. And just hold your gaze there. And breathe. That's it. So that, other than the obvious that everybody else is pointing out to you, the second one is do a meditation practice with the eyes open. Again, I feel that that's more, for me, more beneficial anyways. When I close my eyes, right, you start to wander, daydream, sleep, whatever, you start seeing images, whatever's going on with your eyes closed. I don't live with my eyes closed. And I keep asking myself over the years, why don't I instruct people just to learn to do a meditation with practice eyes open? I don't have an answer yet. So another thing you can do also as a meditative practice is, especially if you're not like here or something, is begin to do moving meditations. Walking meditations can be wonderful, where, could be walking around the block, could be, out wherever you are, and just take 3, 4, 5 minutes and just kind of walk slowly, not looking around mindfully, just watch it, feeling your feet hit the ground, listening to the sounds, kind of gazing in front of you so you don't walk into things, So you can also do that. And this is for everybody, because I'm sure anyone in here have trouble sleeping? All right, a couple hands went up, okay? Why don't we sleep so well? What is this? This is the crazy mind that won't shut off, right? It's just racing and racing and racing, and it plays through your entire life. So you're tired, you're exhausted, you want to go to sleep. You finally get into bed, you finally put your phone down, you finally shut off all your, devices, whatever, and you're like, I'm gonna sleep. Close your eyes, you're tossing and turning, you're thinking about that day, you're thinking about that morning, you're thinking about what happened 20 years ago. Your whole life is going through your head. All you're trying to do is sleep, and you're spinning your whole life in your head. And then you're like, all right, I'm exhausted. I got to get up tomorrow. What time do I have to get up? I have to get up so early, right? And you start thinking about all you got to do tomorrow. And you can't sleep. You wake up, you're exhausted. You get your coffee. You roam through the day, drinking coffee all day long, telling people what? I'm so tired, I'm so tired, I'm so tired. And then you try to go to sleep at night, and you do the exact same thing. All right? There's an Einstein quote, so doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result is insanity. So I guess collectively I did call us all insane. But the reality is, if you're not sleeping, which many of you are not, do something different. Change your routine before you go to bed. Do a meditation before you go to sleep. That's the one time that
Yeah, I listen to sleep meditation.
Yeah.
And I don't get past the first 2 minutes, I fall asleep.
Great. So, do you hear that advice? Can you say that again? What do you listen to?
I would put like Yoga Nidra or just different ones, they're like, maybe 15-minute ones, and I hardly ever get through them.
Perfect. So for those of you who are tossing and turning for 3 hours, do some meditation or listen to some guidance or something, guided stuff before you sleep. It'll definitely help sleep, because lack of sleep sucks. It really, really does. And 98% of the things, I don't know, I just made that number up as always, but that you're worried about trying to fall asleep, you know how much you can do about it at that moment? Zero. Nothing. But we just torture ourselves. Yeah.
Sure, something that's helpful for
Please.
is if you're on the chairs, just scooting forward and just sitting up straight.
Yes.
Helps a lot, just not having your back to the chair.
Yes.
Helps you.
Absolutely. The posture, especially in these chairs, they were donated about 10 years ago, and it's funny, they're called church chairs, and they're really, they're kind of comfy, they're kind of cushy, they also kind of just force you to sink back into it and maybe fall asleep. We should have us all sitting on wood blocks or something like that.
If you're short.
Especially if you're short.
But if you sit forward, then your feet are on the floor, and if you don't.
Yeah, sitting forward in these chairs, the posture almost like to where, again, anytime you sit in the chair, if this were the chair, just slide to the front, push your stomach forward. Everybody try this. I know y'all came around on Saturday morning to fall asleep and all that kind of stuff, but sit on the front, portion of the chair and put your hands on your knees, push your stomach forward and sit up straight. Oh my God, I actually look like I'm in a room full of people meditating. I've been doing this a long time. I've never had everybody do this. I will start doing this every time. Nobody's gonna show up next week, but But yeah, that kind of, again, it's the point of meditation is to wake up, not to go to sleep. And we confuse that, thinking if we just relax ourselves, I want to be so relaxed, I want to sleep, and then we replace that with meditation. But if you actually are aware of your life and your day, you won't get so stressed, you won't get so anxious, and you might actually fall asleep. So, man, y'all look great. Yeah.
Can I just maybe share some humor?
Please.
I'm very new to meditation, and a colleague of mine brings me this gadget. It's called Muse, M-U-S-E.
Yeah.
And it's this headband you wear, and while you're meditating, if you have a lot of thoughts, it senses your brain waves, and there's a lot of rain. And then if your thoughts are low, you hear birds chirping. So the first time I wore it, I'm sitting next to my wife, and she's like, I heard a lot of rain. Yeah, I didn't hear one friggin' bird the whole time. So I wore it the second time, no birds. The third time, I got one bird. And then I decided I'm going to take this $300 machine and throw it away because I doubt that's what meditation is. So I don't know if you've ever heard of this device, but I'm assuming that was a bad start for my meditation.
You didn't throw it away. No, it was a perfect start for your meditation.
Oh, cool. No, I still have it.
The bad part, and I don't usually say bad, the bad part, you didn't throw it away. The bad part is you wanted to throw it away. and I'll close with this thought. What you just shared is, it's perfect, because and again, this is your first time here, but the illusion that brand new people have with meditation is that they see images of like, oh, these happy, peaceful people. They're a mess. There ain't no birds chirping in there.
I got no birds. No.
It is thunderstorm. You probably sat here thinking like, look at all these meditators. No, none of them. If everybody in this room had that on, you might have heard about two birds. Sharon Salzberg's a great teacher. Years ago, I listened to her give a talk, and she said, which is similar to this, but she said they should invent a device that it's like a headset and you put it on, but it actually broadcasts your thoughts. And if you sat in a room of like 20, 30 people and you took turns wearing it, how hysterical it would be. Because we see people like this.
Normal.
You'd feel normal. And that's what I'm getting at, is we see images of, people and Buddhas and under trees sitting like this, looking all peaceful and like this. That is the worst thing for a new Western culture to learn about Buddhism, because we perceive that and think, I'm supposed to be that peaceful person sitting on the beach. You're not. You're supposed to be the person with a ton of rain, but to be aware of that and to sit with that. And slowly, over 6 weeks, 6 months, 6 years, 30 years, whatever it might be, there will be less and less rain at times, more and more birds. You could do this 20 years, every single day. And one day you'll sit down and you will still hear nothing but rain. All you're becoming aware of is that you are human. Your mind races, just like everybody else who's human. But you're learning to be with that. The funny part is that hearing all the rain kind of started to make you angry.
Yeah, it was a $250 device maybe.
Well, that's your fault for spending $250.
I paid for it.
All right, but you get my point, right? Like, I mean, you could have come here and done that for free, and I would have just
for sure.
sat with a hose and sprayed you. But my point is that, brings it back to the truth, is that anyone who's been doing meditation for a long time will tell you, the problem isn't the rain or the birds or the racing mind or the not racing mind. The challenge is, what do I do with that racing mind? And when the mind races, as you go through your day here, and something triggers you and upsets you or makes you angry, can you just hear it and sit with it? Or do you instantly respond? So it's a training of recognizing, I spent years working within the military environment, PTSD, traumatic brain injuries, things like that, and they had a similar device where they were using it in a TBI facility, where they would put it on them, and the more focused you were, it was like watching a video game, and they had a couple different options. One was, say, a racing car, and the more focused you were on breath and on just this, the faster the car went. And the more scattered you were, the car just kind of sat there idle, and it was a way for the docs to register what was going on with their brains. Similar thing. You got away cheap with $250. That thing was like $12,000.
Funny gift. But
So don't give up. Keep the machine, and pray for birds. So we'll join palms. We'll close on that. May the benefit of this practice be shared with all beings in all directions. May all be at peace. May all be free from suffering. May any merit gained be transferred to Laverne during her time of suffering. May she be healthy. May we all be healthy.